President Trump has weighed in on the Women's March with a tweet that is certain to rile the tens of thousands of fired-up protesters marching against him across the country. As processions of pink, pussy hats and illustrations asking for him to be impeached made their way through the nation's many cities, Trump ignored their complaints about him and said, "Beautiful weather all over our great country, a perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months." The mass protests commemorate a year since the historic Women's March on January 21, 2017, a day after Trump's inauguration. This year, the marches also take on the momentum of the Me Too and Time's Up movements against sexual misconduct, which were sparked with allegations against Hollywood heavyweights. They also coincided with a government shutdown which went into place late on Friday night. On Saturday, the marches were well underway by the time the president chimed in. His remarks angered many and sent others into despair. "You just don't get it, do you?" was the reply of one exasperated critic. Many questioned whether the president himself actually wrote the tweet. One thing about this tweet is that it absolutely wasn't written by Trump, vocabulary and phrasing different, so someone else is using his account purely to troll, said one critic. On Saturday, Trump was stuck in Washington, D.C., grounded by the overnight government shutdown and unable to fly to Mar-a-Lago to attend a celebratory anniversary party to which tickets were sold at $100,000 each. Some 250 cities across the world were planning to play host to some form of Women's March on Saturday. One of the largest protests was in Los Angeles, where a gaggle of female starlets gathered to deliver thought-out remarks on sexual misconduct and gender inequality. Both Scarlett Johansson and Natalie Portman spoke with determination as they vowed to support the revolution at foot. They made reference to their young daughters and told how they had decided to stop pandering to men who suppress how they express desire. In Park City, Utah, Jane Fonda led a snow-dusted march.A. A number of stars are in the winter resort for the annual Sundance Film Festival. Among them was lawyer Gloria Allred, who delighted in joining the Hollywood crowd.She as the subject of a new Netflix documentary. In New York City, Whoopi Goldberg was joined by Padma Lakshmi and Yoko Ono, who invoked her late husband John Lennon's song on a sign which read, "Imagine Peace." In Chicago, Viola Davis gave a rousing speech, and in Rome, Asia Argento led a group of marchers through the city. Argento was the first woman to go on the record to accuse the disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein of rape in October. Countless women followed with claims against the 65-year-old. Many of the protests were directed towards Trump's immigration policies and his plans for DACA, which shut down the government on Friday night when Democrats refused to move forward with talks. "People were pretty damn mad last year, and they're pretty damn mad this year," said Tamika Mallory, co-president of the Women's March Board. Like last year, thousands of marchers donned pink knit pussy hats, which were created last year after the president's infamous "grab them by the pee ya hot mick" remark was made public. They became a symbol for the disdain thousands of women carried and still harbor against the president. At Saturday's marches, celebrities acted as guest speakers, particularly in Park City, Utah, where many are attending the Sundance Film Festival. Jane Fonda spoke at the event and was joined by the rapper Common and a host of other stars. Among those in Saturday's crowds elsewhere in the country were thousands who attended last year's marches. 14-year-old Tanak Wileltsin marched with her mother in Washington, D.C. She said, "We went to the first Women's March, but we feel like our work isn't done, and that there's so much more that we need to fix." The number of participants is likely to fall well short of the estimated 5 million who marched on Jan. 21.2017 and made that one of the largest mass protests in U.S. history. Despite the more modest expectations this year, organizers hope to build on the raw energy felt by Trump opponents immediately after his surprise election victory and channel it into gains for progressive candidates in November's midterm elections, using the theme "Power to the Polls." Specifically, organizers want to register 1 million new voters and get more strong advocates for women's rights into office. Activists say Trump's policies rolling back birth control and equal pay protections have propelled many women into activism for the first time. A White House spokesman did not respond to a request for comment on the marches. Some critics said this year's march lacked a focus. Targeting an issue such as immigration would have greater impact, said Shikha Dalmia, a senior analyst at the Reason Foundation, a libertarian think tank. Beating the feminist drum just seems to me beside the point. Maybe they are trying to cast as wide a net as possible, Dalmia said by telephone. The marches will be followed by more events on Sunday, including in Las Vegas, which was chosen by organizers to honor the city where the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history took place last August. Nevada is also a key battleground state in the 2018 midterm elections. The voter registration campaign will target swing states held by Republicans, such as Nevada, and in districts considered a toss-up ahead of November's midterm elections. The banners broadcast the participants' motivation for showing up in some 250 cities across the country. Reproductive rights was a popular theme at the second annual installment of this event. One sign read, "We need to talk about the elephant in the womb." Many of the banners on display at the 2018 women's marches were thought-provoking and serious, others funny and some downright brutal. On the first anniversary of President Donald Trump's inauguration, people took to the streets to protest in the second annual Women's March. The signs people carried were thought-provoking, full of puns and sometimes downright brutal. A sign in Philadelphia read, "This episode of Black Mirror sucks," a reference to the popular TV show on Netflix. The flagship Women's March, held on January 21, 2017, reportedly brought more than 5 million people together worldwide. On Saturday, the 2018 Women's March again drew crowds all over the nation, from Los Angeles to New York City. While the turnout was not expected to be quite as high this year, several cities had hundreds of thousands show up to protest against issues including misogyny, sexual harassment and assault, lack of equal treatment in the workplace, and the deportation of immigrant children. Two women held up a sign with an ode to Mean Girls, the movie, which had a picture of Regina George on a pair of ovaries and a uterus, saying, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" Another said, "Keep your rosaries off my ovaries." "Grow a pair," read a sign being carried in Los Angeles, with the words displayed on a banner positioned around a uterus and set of ovaries. Human rights was another trending topic, showcased throughout the marches. A woman drafted her own version of the lyrics to Cardi B's Bodak Yellow, writing on her sign, said Donald Trump, "You can't F with us, if you wanted to, These is human rights, these is basic rights, these is women moves. More broadly, humanity was also a central theme. A woman drafted her own version of the lyrics to Cardi B's Bodak Yellow, writing on her sign, said Donald Trump, "You can't F with us if you wanted to, these is human rights, these is basic rights, these is women moves grow a pair." Read a sign being carried in Los Angeles, with the words displayed on a banner positioned around a uterus and set of ovaries. This dog also walked in the protest, with its owner promising the pooch would pee on any board or wall. A sign carried by a boy in Cleveland read, "Boys will be good humans," with good humans written in after the words boys was crossed out. Another popular sign simply said, "No human is illegal." In another immigration-themed sign, this time hung around a dog's neck, its owner promised the pooch would pee on any board or wall. A little girl seated on a grown-up's shoulders in Denver carried a sign that said, "Build a wall and my generation will tear it down." Other signs didn't require words and just relied on images, like one from Washington, D.C., that showed a baby with Trump's face being held up by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Other signs in Los Angeles picked up on Trump's desire to bring more people from Norway to the United States, which he made clear when he reportedly called Haiti, El Salvador and African nations as whole countries. One sign said, "Norway, please help us." Another depicted Trump and Norwegian artist Edvard Munch's painting, "The Scream," and added the caption, "The American Scream." A young girl in Los Angeles carried a sign that said, "F Trump," with two rainbows in Los Angeles. One woman urged that time was of the essence, carrying a sign that read, "I'm 98 and can't wait." Dump Trump. Americans outraged over the fact that Congress let spending appropriations expire, causing the federal government to shut down, expressed their outrage at the demonstrations as well. A sign from D.C. blamed the president, specifically, reading, "Trump shutdown," which was trending worldwide on Twitter in the early hours of Saturday morning. The sign also said, "No leadership skills," in reference to Trump. Another creative set of signs from Washington, D.C. worked double duty for those carrying them, spelling out, "Impeached number 45 on one side, and then flipping over to spell out, "Narcissist" on the reverse. Other groups of people across the U.S. work together in another way to send a collective message. Women in both Austin, Texas, and Cincinnati, Ohio dressed up as characters from the series A Handmaid's Tale in a protest against female oppression. Another group that called themselves Gays Against Guns cloaked themselves in white and carried a sign that read their name, along with images of people who had lost their lives due to gun violence. A trio of signs from supporters in Ottawa, Canada, urged people to fight like a girl and said, "Women's rights are human rights." A sign carried by a boy in Cleveland said, "Boys will be good humans," with good humans written in after the words boys was crossed out, showing that people are tired of the old phrase, "Boys will be boys." The Me Too movement, calling out men in high positions who have abused their power in the form of sexual harassment and assault in the workplace, also had a presence at the nationwide marches. One woman in Chattanooga, Tennessee, turned her body into a canvas with a sign that read Me Too taped on the back of her coat as she marched while carrying an American flag. Another lady in St. Louis, Missouri, carried a sign showing three fists in three different skin tones raised in the air, reading "I will not be silent," with the hashtags #BLM for the Black Lives Matter movement and #TimesUp and Me Too. Voting was another major focus for 2018 Women's March signs, calling for women to run for something across the U.S. One sign called for Elizabeth Warren and Oprah Winfrey to run as a ticket for president in 2020, and another warned Trump that elections were coming that looked mighty pink. That message, however, was apparently lost on Trump, who tweeted the following on Saturday: "Beautiful weather all over our great country, a perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months."